Simon Holmstrom signs on the dotted line and the Islanders save a little money. We've got that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs have ended, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, you have a question for us, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, shoot us an email. LockedOnIslanders@gmail.com is the address. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long during the offseason. That includes hirings, firings, trade rumors, the draft, free agency. If it's happening to the New York Islanders, we'll cover it here on the Locked On Islanders podcast. It's always great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. So some news on Tuesday, a couple of pieces of news, actually, and we're going to discuss both of them. But the first bit, the New York Islanders reaching an agreement with former restricted free agent Simon Holmstrom. And Holmstrom signing on the dotted line a one-year deal worth a little bit less than his qualifying offer, $850,000 on the one-year deal for Holmstrom. That leaves, according to Puckpedia.com, the Islanders have now $50,000 in cap space. So, again, 22 players, not 23 on the roster. Unless you move somebody out, you're going to start the season with just the 22 players. And, it just doesn't look like there's a lot of additions on the way for the New York Islanders. But here is the deal. The Islanders did save a little bit of money. The qualifying offer was $874,000. So the Islanders saved a little less than $25,000 by inking Holmstrom this way. Holmstrom played 75 games for the Islanders, scored 15 goals, had 25 points, so only 10 assists. 5 of those goals were shorthanded. And that placed him second in the entire league, only behind Travis Konechny. But here's the thing. Holmstrom, one of those guys who is sound defensively from a positional standpoint, no issues there, but not very dynamic offensively. And realistically, the Islanders are hoping for more because we have seen from Holmstrom at different spurts that he has the ability to put the puck on net and put the puck not just on the net, but in the net. The issue is confidence in some respect. And, keep in mind for Holmstrom, he had 15 goals, but only took in 75 games last year, 72 shots. Now, part of that is when you're playing shorthanded, you're not going to get as many shots. You're also going to, on a bottom six role, and he was essentially a third liner for most of the season. again, you're more in a checking role than in an offensive first role. But here's the rub. Here's the deal. Which New York Islanders player led the team in shooting percentage last year? Well, one guess, and I know you know who it is, Simon Holmstrom. So he had a 20.8% shooting percentage. The next player on the list, Julien Gauthier, who only played 27 games, 15.6. Kyle McLean, only 32 games, 15.4 of the regulars. Kyle Palmieri, Brock Nelson topping that list, 13.8 and 13.6, respectively. So the Islanders are hoping for more. And essentially, Holmstrom signed a one-year prove-it deal. And after this year, he will once again be a restricted free agent. And, the Islanders will sort of try to figure out how he fits into the team. This is a critical season in the development of Simon Holmstrom. And I think, you look at the way the Islanders lineup is constructed as of now. And, it's tricky to talk about lineups in July. Not going to lie about that. But let's face it, Holmstrom is one of those guys who's going to be battling for ice time at the bottom six level. So you got J.G. Pageau, probably Pierre Engvall, Anders Lee, Kyle McLean, Casey Cizikas, Simon Holmstrom, Hudson Fasching. Those, 7 guys, 6 of them are going to be in the lineup on any given night. And Holmstrom has to prove that he should be one of those guys. I do believe, and again, this is just a sort of an intuitive hunch on my part more than anything. But I do believe that Holmstrom did the Islanders a slight favor by taking less than his qualifying offer. Okay, $25,000 roughly less. But hey, give me the $25,000, right? I'm sure all of us would take it if they offered it to us. He did the Islanders a favor, and I get the feeling that if Holmstrom is to sign a deal next year and have that season this year that proves he's the guy, he's good enough, he's ready to be a everyday player, that's the Islanders will sort of give him back a couple of bucks to make up for that. I'm not saying there was a written agreement, but probably it was discussed at some level with his agent, but we'll see. The thing about Holmstrom, he kind of faded down the stretch, and I'm not sure he should, based on his ability to skate, based on the way he can forecheck and play, he should be a good fit in Patrick Roy's system. And yet, down the stretch, and especially in the playoffs, we did not see Simon Holmstrom very much. And, that could be a little bit of a surprise, and maybe it was a little bit of a surprise for Islander fans. And it certainly probably was a surprise for Simon Holmstrom. He only played in 3 playoff games out of the 5 that the Islanders played, missed some games down the stretch. Again, this is it. You got to establish yourself. You've been in the NHL now 2 seasons. This is season 3. Simon Holmstrom, up until now, up until 2024, was the last first-round pick that the Islanders had. This team, as everydayers know, we've talked about, needs to be better at developing their prospects. Holmstrom, they didn't rush him to the NHL, I don't believe, but now is the time to show that Simon Holmstrom is ready to sort of be that guy and, be an everyday, steady contributor to the New York Islanders. And let's see if he can do that coming up this season. Again, a pivotal season overall for Simon Holmstrom. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We're going to talk about Oliver Wahlstrom, some news concerning him. We'll talk about the Islanders prospect pool. Finally, a little recognition, positive recognition for the prospect pool. Not a lot, but at least a little. And oh yes, for our Islanders birthday of the day, someone who I would argue is one of the best, if not the very best, Islanders players of all time. He won 4 Stanley Cups with the Islanders, 6 as a player, and later coached the Rangers. This should be an easy one, but let's see if you can guess who that is. It's all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop, but as the playoffs wind down and come to an end in the NBA and the NHL, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But with FanDuel, they let me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this season, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long at FanDuel. Met fan, Yankee fan. Hey, baseball's going every day. Check out all the odds at FanDuel. You want to determine who's going to hit a home run today, which team is going to win any given game. So many options at FanDuel. You could also bet on who's going to win the division, who's going to make the playoffs, futures bets for football out there as well. So check it all out at FanDuel. Head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we get some news on Oliver Wahlstrom today, and it's, important news, even if it's not news that is earth-shattering at the moment. But the important news is we know the arbitration date for Wally. It's going to be August 1st. Now, why is that important? Well, that means that the Islanders have up until August 1st to try to make either reach an agreement on a contract with Wally or trade his rights to another team. Now, the qualifying offer was $917,831. While Wahlstrom did not accept the qualifying offer, and I can't say, that it's likely he'll get more than that based on his performance. However, Lou Lamoriello basically said at the draft in Las Vegas that they were going to qualify Wahlstrom because they want to try to move on from him and they don't want to lose him for nothing. Just like saving the Islanders $24,000 on the Holmstrom contract, a nice little touch by Lou Lamoriello, trying to get something for Oliver Wahlstrom does make sense. You don't want to lose a former first-round pick for nothing. And we'll see what happens. But now with this date, 2 weeks away, a little less than 2 weeks away, it puts a deadline on things. And that means that, again, hopefully it spurs a trade by the Islanders. Because I'll tell you right now, if they don't trade him and they don't make other moves, they can't afford to even keep Wahlstrom on the team and have him sit in the press box. All they could do is send him down to the AHL. And by setting this August 1st deadline now, what that means is that the Islanders have the deadline, and hopefully, if they can work out a trade on or before August 1st, what you get is Wahlstrom gets to his new team before training camp opens, gets a chance to move to that new city, get acclimated, spend training camp with his new teammates, and move from there. Now, keep in mind, the deadline does sort of spur things a little bit, but the Islanders could still sign Wahlstrom. Let's say they go to arbitration, and I mean, the odds are Wahlstrom is not going to win arbitration, but, let's say that he ends up with the qualifying offer as his new contract. Until the season starts, you could be 10% over the cap. So the Islanders could still hold on to Wahlstrom and, trade him at any point between now and the start of the regular season, or he would pass through waivers and they'd lose him for nothing, which we don't want to happen. There's another little benefit to the Islanders from the arbitration filing, and I think there was some cooperation, unofficially, of course, between Wally's agent, the player, the agent, and Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders. And that is that if Wahlstrom is still on the roster as of August 1st, it does open up a 48-hour buyout window. It opens up 3 days after. So August 4th, the Islanders would have a 48-hour buyout window, and they could use that window only on players who make more than $5 million a year. So if they wanted to buy out a J.G. Pageau or an Anders Lee, and I don't think they want to go that route, but it's open to them to make that move. And I only think Lou Lamoriello would do something like that if it coincides with a, opening up some cap space to make another positive move. But at least that window is opened up. And as far as Wahlstrom goes, it's been a difficult situation for Wally with the New York Islanders. He had 2 goals and 6 points in 32 games. Not exactly productive. Played only 10 games once Patrick Waugh took over as the Islanders coach. Basically, right now, Wally has struggled being in the doghouse of Barry Trotz, Lane Lambert, and Patrick Waugh, where none of those 3 coaches have really trusted Oliver Wahlstrom to be an everyday player. Yes, his ACL injury certainly hindered his growth, slowed his progress, all of that. The Islanders, Trotz was trying the tough love thing, I think, with Wally, but I don't think it worked the way the Islanders intended it to work. And now the question becomes, in my mind, I like Oliver Wahlstrom. I like his personality. I've been rooting for him really since the Islanders drafted him. But I think based on everything that's going on, his limitations as a skater, the way he has struggled with this organization, the way the Islanders treated him when he was coming up and developing, and the injury and the 3 coaches, the whole 9 yards, I think Oliver Wahlstrom needs a change of scenery to have a better chance of realizing his potential. I hope he does. I would love it if it came with the Islanders, but based on the cap situation, based on the history, I don't see that as likely. And, even if Lou Lamoriello only gets a 6th or a 7th round pick, or a solid AHL player who could help out in a pinch at the NHL level, it would be worth it, rather than losing Oliver Wahlstrom for nothing. And obviously, when and if a trade takes place, we would wish Wally well. But we now have a deadline or a date set for his arbitration hearing, August 1st. And that may give us some important news starting in August as far as Wally's future with the Islanders or elsewhere. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. The summer prospect ratings came out, and the Islanders finally have someone to talk about in those ratings. We'll talk about that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, all of that and more next on the Locked On Islanders podcast. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work and use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with quality candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked-on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So, The Athletic came out with their summer prospect rankings, the top 100 prospects in the NHL. And basically, to make this list, you have to be of the right age. You have to be under 23 and not established as a full-time NHL player with your team. And basically, this is done twice a year, once in the middle of the season, once over the summer. The summer list came out yesterday. Last year, in the middle of the year, they did the top 100, plus they do some honorable mentions. Guess how many Islanders were on the list? 0, none, not a single player. Well, now they come up with the list. They listed the top 100. They listed about another 15 to 20 near misses or honorable mentions. But the Islanders finally have a player on the list. No surprise, it's Cole Eiserman, their top pick this year. Eiserman ranking 16th on the list out of the top 100 prospects. He is the only Islander on the list, but 16th, the second ranked left wing on this prospects list. And they describe him as a dynamic goal scorer in the truest sense. And that's a good thing. And they also kind of said that he's a better skater than he's been given credit for. And they've said his skating is actually above average, but it's the puck skill and the release and the fact that he could score so many different ways. Shots from in close, tips, rebounds, rushes, one-timers. He absolutely can put the puck in the net from anywhere. So finally, the Islanders getting a prospect on the Athletics' top 100 prospect list for the first time in a while, and it's Cole Eiserman. And man, to have him 16th is certainly refreshing, and finally a little good news for Islander fans when you talk about the prospect pool. Again, other division teams were higher on this list. The Blue Jackets had 6 players in the top 100. The Capitals had 5. But the fact that the Islanders finally made the list, and the only one team didn't, and that was the Florida Panthers. The Islanders and the Panthers were, I think Ottawa was also on the list last year. But now the Islanders off the schneid, as they say, and now have Cole Eiserman 16th on the Athletics list. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And I would make the case that this player is the greatest all-around skater in Islanders history, and I think the greatest forward for sure in Islanders history. Today is the 68th birthday of former Islander center Bryan Trottier. The native of Val Marie, Saskatchewan, 5'11", 195 pounds, drafted by the Islanders in the second round in 1974. Also drafted by the Cincinnati Stingers of the WHA. Broke into the NHL in 1975-76 and scored 32 goals and had 95 points in his rookie year to win the Calder Memorial Trophy as the NHL's top rookie. Scored 50 goals in 1981-82, along with 134 points, including 87 assists in 76 games in 1978-79. Trottier could skate. He was a great passer, and he absolutely could shoot the puck. I think his scoring ability kind of gets lost in the shuffle now because everyone thinks about the Trio Grande line, which was Trottier, Gillies, and Bossy, and they think of Gillies as sort of the power forward and the muscle. Trottier is the playmaker, and Bossy as the goal scorer. But Trotz scored 40 goals or more 4 times and had that 150-goal season. He could put the puck in the net consistently. Won 4 Stanley Cups with the Islanders and then 2 Stanley Cups with the Penguins in the early 90s. Later went on to be an assistant coach with the Penguins, an assistant coach with the Avalanche, and won another cup there, and was briefly head coach of the New York Rangers, which never really sat well with Islander fans or Ranger fans, I think, for that measure. Won the Calder, won the Art Ross Trophy, the Hart Trophy, the Conn Smythe in 1980, and the King Clancy Award. So Trottier in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. His best game as an Islander, it's easy. December 23rd, 1978. Islanders hosting the Rangers at the Nassau Coliseum. This wasn't only one of the best games in Islander history. This is one of the most memorable games in NHL history. The goalies, well, Wayne Thomas started for the Rangers, Billy Smith in goal for the Islanders, but this was Bryan Trottier's night. Got his 20th goal of the year in the first period to open the scoring. Jerry Hart with the assist. With the game tied 1-1, Islanders on the power play. Trottier sets up Mike Bossy to make it 2-1. Then Trottier scores his second goal of the game from Gillies and Bossy. 3-1 Islanders. Trottier assists on a goal by Gary Howitt. 4-1 Islanders. Trottier assists on a goal by Mike Bossy. 6-1 Islanders. Still second period. 6-2 Islanders. Trottier scores from Gillies and Bossy. A power play goal. Trottier scores again from Gillies and Stefan Pearson. Then in the third period, Trottier on the power play from Dennis Potvin and Mike Bossy. Islanders beat the Rangers 9-4, but for Bryan Trottier, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points. He was a +6, took 8 shots on goal, tying him for the team lead with Mike Bossy. The Islanders crush the Rangers by a score of 9-4. I spoke to Bryan Trottier about that game for my book, Shorthanded, and he just had some really interesting things to say about it. A magic moment, really, where everything went right that night for both Brian Trottier and the New York Islanders. To me, Trottier, the greatest skater in Islanders history, the most well-rounded player, responsible defensively, great passer, great shooter, great skater, and just an outstanding guy as well. So happy birthday to Brian Trottier. He is our Islanders birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We will be back tomorrow with the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. If anything happens with Oliver Wahlstrom, we will certainly let you know, and check it out on Twitter as well. Until then, keep cool. It's hot out there. Have a great day. And of course, let's go Islanders.